Hi there. It's Monday, July 21st, 2025, and I'm here for our weather and wellness outlook for the coming week. And this week we have some seasonal shifts happening. We have a new moon, and we have just full summer coming into our presence and kind of a lot of different weather going on around the world. So we'll have a little bit of a look at that. We're here to talk about how the weather can inform our diet and lifestyle so that we feel good and have the best life that we can from week to week and day to day. So, the first thing I'm going to talk about today is that we are at the end of the solstice standstill. So, the word solstice comes from the word sol, meaning sun, and stis, meaning stay static or stasis, not moving still. So, there's a period of it means sun standing still, basically. But it's a little more than one day because we think of it as, oh yes, it's the longest day, and then the days just get shorter from here. But actually there's a solstice season, and where you'll notice, and I'll show you how that works right now, that we've been in this standstill period, and now we really will notice that the nights will be getting longer compared to what we've had previously. So I just have a ball here so that we can kind of look at that. And I don't have the full setup like we probably all had when we were 8 years old, and there was the sun, and we made the models of all the planets. This is really just to show how the standstill works of the solstice period. So, we're moving up here, and this is kind of a steeper slope, and then we get kind of close to the top, and it flattens out. So that would be about 4 weeks before the actual solstice, so right at the end of May. And then we're moving up. We get to the very peak of that. It's the June 21st, right around there, give or take a day, is the exact point of the longest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. And then it's still pretty flat if you come across the top. So up until today, July 21st, which is about a month after. So this is a solstice standstill period, even though that's like saying, um, it's repeating the same thing twice, but just so we think of it as a period. And then now we're going to go into the steeper slope, and we'll notice an acceleration of the differences between day and night. So I want to show you a website that I found a couple of years ago, and it's super fun to see it on a graph, actually. So let me share my screen and we will look at that. So this is on a website called timeanddate.com, and you can see where I'm putting the cursor. It's this period here is the solstice standstill period, and I'll go through and look at the dates. I'm not going to move that line right this second because it kind of messes things up. So see here, we're just around May 21st, like I said. And then we have this whole period before the dark starts growing again. And there's some micro changes here, and we've certainly started to see that. But let's look at how this actually, I'm going to move this back one day because we're one day into the shift. So that's fine. Okay. I see, that's what happened. There we go. Okay. So if we look at this bar here across the bottom, and then this is kind of the key to what each color means. We've had this is here in London, we've had the really, really long days. And this is what I didn't really realize before I found this, was that we don't even have night during this time in London at our latitude. So total night, zero, actual night, like the whole time while we're sleeping, it's still a certain twilight during this time of year. So that would be the period of the whole standstill. Now, if we move forward to today, that's there we go. Well, one day, come on, just stay on today. Talking to the computer now. There we go. Okay, so here we go, July 21st. it's the first night. So really we are at the exact shift of that window or that crossing over period, 21 minutes of nighttime. If we go ahead to next week, 2 hours and 20 minutes. So that's 1 week already. We're getting 2 hours of nighttime. Like I said, it's accelerating. And we're here to August 10th. We already have 4 hours of actual nighttime. And then as we carry on, you'll see that acceleration will continue. And if you look at this graph at the bottom, as we carry on, you can just see the day getting smaller and smaller. And here we are at equinox, and we move all the way through to our next solstice, where we will stand still with these shorter days and longer nights at the end of the year. And and then this little dip in the graph is just showing when the time change period comes, and that is how they've represented it on the graph. And really quick, I just pulled this one up for Trondheim, Norway. They are very close to the Arctic Circle, not quite, and you can put that where we are just just before today and see they're so close. Ay, it's very tricky to get stuff to freeze. There we go. You can see that they don't have nighttime or these two twilights because they're so close to the Arctic Circle. They're almost the midnight sun, very close, and they'll have a little bit. And then just in the next couple days, they're already getting more shades of twilight until they move up to September 1st and they start getting some nighttime. But it could be good news if you've been liking or if you've been having a hard time sleeping because the sun is peeking into your window like before 5 a.m., which is what it's doing here. I'm going to stop the share now. So that's what's going on with this, with the kind of bigger picture of the season that we're moving into the next change of the day and night cycle. Also, interestingly, that within that, we're also moving into like the fullest expression of summer. So each season has its beginning, its middle, and then its end where it's transitioning. And this is, of course, seasons. You could base it on agricultural seasons, but we're looking at the calendar with the sun cycle. So that would be the first day of summer. We count that June 21st. The first month is like the introduction to summer. And we've had a pretty good introduction to summer this year. It's been pretty hot. Then we're gonna move into the fullest expression of summer, which really are the way that we think about summer, laying around, going to the beach. It's warm, just enjoying it. Like there's not it's a little more predictable that it's going to be summer at this point until the end of August. And then we start getting the little inklings of the shift and the autumn changing. And that's because the days are getting shorter. So we're getting less warmth from the sun. The other bigger cyclical thing that's happening this week is the new moon is going to be Friday, July 25th. And the new moon and the full moon are the points of the month that we have the strongest gravitational pull between the earth and the moon. So the tides would be bigger, the full moon being the biggest and the new moon being the second biggest. And that's happening to the water on the planet. And if you think about our bodies and our cells being over 75% water, some people more than others, as we've talked about, have a little more fluctuation. So you may just notice a little bit of that. New moons sometimes tend to make you feel a little more emotional because it's clear in spirituality and representation, it kind of represents just clearing out what is done. So it might be a time where you want to feel your feelings and just know that that might be something that's coming up for Friday and the weekend, like it could feel a little more emotional because of the new moon. And then just as we move into the weather, like I said, we are in the full expression of summer for the next 4 weeks. And that just means that there's still going to be storm systems moving through in the areas that have tendency to get these, the storms tend to be just spinning and circling through different areas. And in some places, they can grind and get really, really heavy. And certainly a year globally of flash floods. There have been more floods in South Korea, a lot more places around the US, and there were some in Northern Ireland over the weekend as well. I'm sure there's more if you search for it. And if you've experienced that, I hope that you are getting all the resources that you need to clean up and that everyone is safe and taken care of. So let's see. Do a quick screen share in a minute. There's a lot of weather variations going on right now around different parts of the world. There's a big heat wave or heat dome, I think they're calling it, coming into the central US. And that's definitely going to be where there's going to be heat indexes with high humidity. So really do all the things you need to do for the heat, especially make sure your body stays cool. Sometimes when it's really humid, it's hard for the body to cool off from the sweat. And that's one of the ways that we can get overheated when it's really hot like that. And of course, make sure you're getting hydrated. Hydrating fruits are great, summer fruits, getting plenty of electrolytes, adding pinch of salt to your water. And it's really hot. It's not a time to do a lot of fasting or under eating. You need to make sure your body is getting enough nutrition. And then in stormy places where big weather patterns are coming through, comfort food is what we talked about last week. Some nice soups, some sweet and sour kind of stuff, some barbecue. As use the summer fruit to make some nice desserts, some nice stone fruit crumble. Things like that are great all summer long, but when they're stormy, I think that comfort food really helps. And finally, with the food, I would say there's so much stress going on, continues to go on around the planet. So protein is really key. It's important. The great thing that protein does is it gives your body a sense of safety and actually helps the cortisol relax. So if there's high cortisol, the best thing you can do is get some protein into your system. It's a contraindicator for cortisol. So let's have a really quick look. The good news this week is that we get a little bit of break from all this geomagnetic activity, but I do also think it's going to come back. So unfortunately, it's been nice and we certainly should be enjoying it. And let's see, here we go. Um, we're just going to look at this really quickly. So this is the biometeorological forecast for London. There's a little bit of low pressure lingering from the weekend. Solar activity and stuff is low, and we have not seen this at its lowest metric in quite some time. So we get a little bit of a breather here from the geomagnetic activity. I do think that later in the week, though, that is going to get a little bit more in flux because the with the new moon coming in. And here's our graph. Let's see if I can expand that a little bit. Here's the barometric pressure graph that we like to just have a look at. And just like I said, we did have this big decline over the weekend, and now we are happily on the upswing, uptick, and we will be having some nice stable pressure throughout the week. So that's really good. And that's all I'm going to do for the share today. We had some tips about some of the food we're going to be eating in the summer, and that's going to depend a little bit on where you are and what kind of weather you're experiencing and your exact location. In terms of the seasonal shift that we are going through, we know that the days are getting shorter and shorter. We know that we're in full summer right now. So really get out and enjoy it. Get out, get your feet on the ground. That's probably the best thing you can do, especially all the geomagnetic influences that we've had. Getting your bare feet, your whole body laying on the ground, but bare feet on straight on the ground is the best thing you can actually do. We have all these nerve senses in our feet. They're connecting to the ground. Don't take my word for it. Go out and try it yourself. You don't even need to make a big deal out of it. Just go to your backyard, go to your garden, go to your local park, sit on a bench. I mean, even better, get a towel or blanket and sit on the ground, but just sit on a bench, take off your shoes and put your plunk your feet right on the ground. And I think do that for a few days while we're in this nice time of the longer, warmer days. And of course, if it's really hot, you want to do that in the morning or the evening. It doesn't really matter, but get your feet on the ground and get your eyes in the sunlight early in the morning. That's also a really good thing to do to help with the circadian rhythm. And yeah, I hope that has been interesting to you. And thanks for tuning in. And I will see you next time. Bye.